Hello, love and abundance to y'all. How is everyone doing? Hey, what's up, fellas? This is Dr. Varun Gandhi. Love and abundance to you, and welcome to Midnight Motivation at 9:45 p.m. Pacific with Dr. Varun Gandhi. Today, we're going to talk about courage and what is courage. Yesterday, I brought up the topic of why men should cry and why it's a good thing for men to cry. And today I want to talk about how there's a lot of courage involved in that process, right? When you go against the grain of, when society tells you not to do something, but you still go ahead and do it because that's how you feel and that's what you want to do. But initially it takes a lot of courage to do it, to express your emotions. So courage is extremely important in our lives and we don't realize it, right? It requires courage to do everything. Anything new that we decide to do, it takes courage to take the first step. So courage is learning to overcome the fear that we face. When you go out and set your mind to do something, and when you face fear, to go beyond that fear, you have to have courage. Courage is the bridge that takes you beyond your fear. So continue having courage. Step up. And it also means pretending to be brave. Sometimes you just gotta have to, pretend that you're brave. Put up that front just to show others. Courage is not the absence of fear. Fear is there with courage. It's not about fearlessness either, right? But courage is not letting that fear defeat you. I think that's the best way to put it, is not letting that fear to defeat you. So you look at a lot of the leaders that have come in the past and the current leaders, all of them at some point and probably every day has to have courage to step up and make the decisions that they have to make. All of our leaders from the past, like let's look at Mahatma Gandhi, right? I mean, it was India's independence just 3-4 days ago. And so look at Mahatma Gandhi as a leader. He had to have the courage to step up to the plate, to say enough is enough. I want the British out of here, right? So Mahatma Gandhi, all of our leaders, take a look at MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., and the courage he had to have to be the leader for the civil rights movement. Because of what he did 40 years ago, now we're reaping the benefits. Look at Nelson Mandela's life. I mean, his full story has so many incidences, so many experiences of where he had to overcome his fears through courage. And I was actually reading one of his, biographies, and one of his teachings is about courage. So he has a particular instance that actually really sums up what courage is and how he shows up with courage every day. Damn, a lot of people showing up. Thank you guys. What's up, guys? Love and abundance to you. Again, this is Dr. Varun Gandhi. You're tuning in to Midnight Motivation at 9:45 p.m. Pacific. Today we're talking about courage and how courage is not fearlessness. Courage is stepping up to that fear and overcoming it, not letting that fear defeat you, right? So an example in Nelson Mandela's life, what he went through, this is the first president election in South Africa when he was stepping up for elections. And he had to go into this part of the country where he had supporters, but it was really there were a lot of riots and there were a lot of unrest, civil unrest in that area. But he still decided to go against everyone's warning. He still decided to go and fly into that place. So he took out this mini biplane, propeller plane, and set out to his destination. 20 minutes before they land, Mandela looks out the window and notices that one of the engines of the plane has gone out. The propeller wasn't functioning, it wasn't spinning anymore. He was reading a newspaper at that point, so he puts down his newspaper, talks to his bodyguard. This is a small propeller plane with just 4 people on it, 2 pilots, Nelson Mandela and the bodyguard. He talks to the bodyguard hey, points out this is what's going on, tells the bodyguard to talk to the pilot, let them know. The pilot already knew what was going on, and the bodyguard at this point was freaking out. When he came back to his seat, he was trembling, but he saw Nelson Mandela just go back to his paper like nothing ever happened. Like he was just going on on a train ride to New York, a commuter train ride, and nothing ever happened. He just went back to his newspaper. So the bodyguard was sitting there looking at Nelson Mandela and just how calm and collected he was. So the bodyguard used him as a role model and modeled him, his calmness and his collectedness, and he stayed calm and quiet. And everything went fine. They landed perfectly. Later on, the author of the book interviewed Nelson Mandela, asking him about that incident and what happened, how did he feel? And Mandela then told him the truth, that he was scared to death. But he didn't show it. He put up that face, he put up that front of courage, and just stood there, and he didn't let that fear get to him. So Aristotle said that courage is the first of human virtues because it makes all else possible. All the other virtues are possible because of courage. You took the courage to step up and learn something new, learn something different. And now everything else is possible because of it. So in my life, this is important. Courage, the way I learned it is I just had to practice. One of the first times I remember putting up courage was when I first moved to America. And this was coming to a whole new situation. Didn't know anyone here except for cousins. And I was in junior, 11th grade, high school. It was a rough time because I didn't know anyone. I was back where I was from, in Dubai. I was known, by a lot of the people. I was stayed in one place for 10 years, in the same school. So I was known by everyone in school, a lot of people at least. And when I come here, now suddenly I'm dropped into the middle of nowhere, not knowing the culture at all. So it took a lot of courage at the very beginning. The first 3 months was extremely hard. I'd wake up and not want to go to school, and I'd literally cry to my mom, why am I going to school? I don't want to go. This is, it's painful because I don't know anyone. I feel lonely at school. So it took me some time. It took me 2 to 3 months to finally be okay with the situation, but there was a lot of courage involved in that. So that was one of the first few times when I remember putting up a lot of courage. Just recently, quitting my job was one of the harder things that I had to recently do. I had I was a consultant for an environmental engineering company, and about 4 years ago, I left my job because it wasn't helping me anymore. I wasn't really interested in that, and I decided to become an entrepreneur and work on my ideas after that. So that's what I've been doing since then. But that took a little bit of took courage, because I had to fight off society and the thoughts in my mind, and I had to fight off my parents. Actually, let them know that, hey, I need to do this for myself, for my sanity. I was unhappy in those 2 years that I was a consultant, and I had to do that for myself. So quitting that job was actually really rough too for me. But once I took that decision, once I took the leap, the best decision ever. So it always pays to have courage in the right times. Really, the way to do it is just practicing, right? So it's like a muscle. The more you practice to be courageous, the more you become courageous, and the more bigger acts of courage you do. You start off small, and then it increases with time. So exponentially, maybe even. But just keep practicing, keep doing it over and over again. Start off really, really small, really tiny baby steps, and work your way up. Another way to do it is, just force yourself repeatedly to do the thing that you're afraid of, because fear is one of the things that blocks, courage. So keep repeatedly doing the things that you're, you don't want to do, you're unfamiliar with. Just repeated it over and over again. Force yourself to do it so it becomes a habit, and now you're constantly just stepping up with courage. Surprisingly, there's not a lot of research done on courage. And recently they've found out the actual part in the brain that's responsible for, that actually gets activated when courage is involved in a situation, when you exhibit courage in a situation. And this is part of the prefrontal cortex. It's called the SGACC. And it gets activated when you demonstrate courage in a particular situation. And they have found that out through fMRI tests. So that's one of the few things that they really know about courage. Otherwise, there are a lot of stories of leaders constantly exhibiting courage. Modern day leaders like Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos, and all of them have had to have courage to grow their companies and expand their companies into horizons that they would not have thought of, originally. So there's a lot of courage involved in growing these companies, and that's an example that you could take as a modern day leader. Well, that's it for my time. I really just wanted to talk about courage, how it's not fearlessness. You got to step up and do it every day and practice like a muscle. Thank you guys for tuning in to Midnight Motivation at 9:45 p.m. Pacific. Again, tune in tomorrow. I'll be there. And again, this is Dr. Varun Gandhi. Check me out on my website, gandhi.blog. I keep updating my website with new videos, with new content, and just talking about spreading the message. And if you guys have any questions, if you guys have any things that you want me to talk about, please shoot me a comment and I will respond. I will talk about it in one of these episodes. I'm going to do almost 2 months of this continuously, so I got a lot of time to go. So please send me your comments, please send me your questions, and I will be gladly, I'll gladly do the research and find out the answers for you and help you out in any way I can. So thank you guys for tuning in. Love and abundance to you. Please spread the word. Let everyone know about Midnight Motivation at 9:45 p.m. Pacific. Yes, that is the name of this show. And why do I call it Midnight Motivation even though it's at 9:45? Because it's got to be midnight at somewhere right now. It's got to be midnight, right? So Midnight Motivation. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. That's it for my 15 minutes. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.